Okay, continue here. Sully's teeth started chattering, and the two started walking back to the truck. As they walked back, Daniel pointed up at the night sky and said, "Can you believe that all that up there supposedly came out something smaller than a proton? I can kind of see why Muslims would write in the Quran that the sky is a well-guarded canopy. And I can see why early Muslims would fall for that when not having telescopes. If someone can believe all that came out of something smaller than a proton, and that's just half of it, being that the other is on the side of Earth, being that the other is on the other side of Earth now." "Well-guarded canopy," asked Sally. What does that mean?" Daniel then said, "According to the Quran, there actually is no universe. What you see above is actually a part of a hard sphere circling the Earth with water above it. Or is it below it? Well, it's hard to tell. Hard to tell. But according to Mo, the sun and moon ride in or swim in, depending on what you want to believe, the Quran or the Hadith. Um, Actually, the Hadith, well, Al-Tabari, Muhammad, in the Hadith, well, Al-Tabari, Muhammad says the sun and moon ride in a chariot, and that the sphere is a chariot made of water held up over our heads by the power of Allah. So, quote, not a drop falls, quote. In the Quran, I can't remember if it says sphere or not, but in the Quran, in some English versions, the sky is said to be a canopy without any cracks and breaks in it, like a scene without blemish. You definitely get the feeling. Old Crazy Mo thought the sky was a canopy, for sure. And that according to the Quran, if a part of the sky should fall, a non-believer would say that it's, quote, merely clouds. Would you say that if you saw a part of the sky falling? Sully had her head down as she watched. She looked up and said, I don't think so." Daniel went on and said, "Again, in the Quran, it's a canopy of water held up by the power of Allah." Wait, that's the Hadith that says that, I think. The Quran says the sun and moon swim in an orbit, which, is an orbit around the Earth. Sally thought then said, "But isn't the sun orbiting through around the galaxy?" "Sure, but according to the Quran, the sun is, quote, running to a resting place. And if it is talking about the sun running to a resting place somewhere in the galaxy, well, where in the galaxy is the sun asking permission of Allah to rise over? Rise over what? Where is that throne the sun and moon prostrate under to get their luminosity?" Sully mouthed, "Lumen." Then went on with, "Believe it or not, in the Quran, the sun and moon travel in boats, similar to their offspring Noah. In other words, they travel in big boats, arks." Sully stopped walking. Although it was dark, Daniel could see she actually looked disturbed by what he revealed to her. "You're kidding. You've got to be kidding me," she said. "If you don't believe me, I've got a Yusuf Ali in my truck that I can show you. In the Quran on the internet they have now, well, it's quite different. It actually sounds like it's supposed. It actually sounds like it supports the notion that the Earth revolves around the sun, not like it has in Arabic and all English versions of the Quran that they are pulling off of the net to try to make Islam sound kind of sort of scientific. And you want to know something else the Quran says about all these stars over our head? No, what? Asked Sally in a monotone, as if in deep thought. The planets, like Venus, Mars, Jupiter, well, the planets that you can see, all are called lamps, and they are located in the lowest heaven, which, if you study Islam, is our atmosphere. I kid you not. The Quran has it that the lowest sky, or heaven, is our atmosphere. And if you try to leave the zones of the earth, like our infidel American and Russian astronauts were able to do, without any authority from Allah, in at least one of the zones, these lamps, planets, will become flaming missiles at you. And guess what? What? Asked Sally, looking down as she continued to walk with Daniel. They are to guard the heavens, to keep Satan and us from spying on Allah. Can you imagine that? Every time you see a shooting star, it's Venus, or Mars, or Jupiter, well, basically the visible planets, flying at flaming speed to stop Satan, or evil ones, or us, from spying on Allah in his heaven. It's the flaming planets, actually, shooting stars. It's actually, yeah, it's the flaming planets actually shooting at you to keep you from going to the moon. Yet again, infidel Americans went to the moon that Mo said is in the midst of the zones. You've got to be kidding, said Sally, smiling and looking disturbed at the same time. She then asked, but are you sure they're doing this in the atmosphere of the earth? Couldn't that be metaphoric? Daniel laughed and said, the clear signs handed down that the Quran calls itself aren't so clear, are they? Sally didn't say anything. Daniel said, Muslims try to say that these seven skies in our heavens above us are zones that can't be reached, that the universe is only in the first zone and not in our atmosphere like the Quran really has it. But again, Muhammad taught that the moon is located in the midst of the zones, which would place the moon outside the universe. Sally continued to walk and said, really? Daniel then said, according to Tabari, Muhammad said the sun and moon get their radiance by prostrating under the throne of Allah. That's how they get their luminosity. Do you think they get that someplace in the galaxy? No. You get a strong feeling that it's when they go down below the horizon, as if the sun ever truly moves when it comes to night and day. But according to Mo, the moon isn't as radiant as the sun because of where it prostrates under Allah's throne. Of course, if you study Islam, it sounds like Mo says the sun and moon have butlers. I kid you not, butlers that give them clothes of radiance. So, it's hard which lie you want to believe from Mo. Mo says the sun gets the brightest clothing, of course. Oh, and in the Quran, all that stuff Mo says about clothes for the moon in the Hadith is contradicted as to why the moon isn't as bright as the sun. According to the Quran, and well, another Hadith, the reason why the moon isn't as bright as the sun is because an angel brushed off its radiance with its wing. And the moon used to be as bright as the sun until that happened. Isn't that just incredibly scientific? And yet, there are people sawing off heads for such a belief. Sally stopped walking, then asked softly, you're not lying, are you? Dang smiled and said, it sounds stupid, doesn't it? Are you sure it's not metaphoric? Asked Sally. If metaphor means lying, then it's metaphoric. The thing is, though, to me, it only proves Mo to be a false prophet. Deuteronomy, the very part of the Torah Muslims claim, is talking about Mo. Yeah, the very part of the Torah Muslims claim is talking about Mo, cancels Mo out as being a prophet when it says if a prophet is wrong in just one prophecy, he's not to be feared. In other words, he's a false prophet. Do you think Mo got all his prophecies right? Sally looked about and said, doesn't sound like it. When Sally and Daniel got back to the truck, Daniel said, well, we're back. I sure hope I can get this thing Eileen long enough to not freeze us inside. By the way, I'm out of toilet paper. If nature calls you, I'll have to let you use these letters I used to put with my packets with the CDs. Unfortunately, I made thousands of them. And all for nothing, for I've decided early on to no longer use them inside paper-plated packets, just a CD down, just tape a CD down with a marble rolling around as a way to help create mystery and possible desire to open up the packet to see what's inside. Some of these CDs will actually have a video of Neville reading the note you can use as toilet paper. And Sally and Daniel got into the truck. Sally was shivering. Sally asked, when are you going to have a cigarette? I don't smoke, said Daniel. Sorry about the smell. The guy who had this truck before me must have been a 6-pack-a-day guy. Personally, I think my company gave this stinky old truck to me in the hopes of getting rid of me. They gave me a black truck in the summertime and gave me this white one now that it's getting cold. Yeah. And gave this white one now that it's getting cold. My dispatcher really don't like me very much. Daniel sat down in the driver's seat and said, well, I'd really love to heat you up with my hands, but I'm a married man. Besides, the way you look, I might want to do more. Want to do more than heat you up, but get you hot. You definitely have those female features the faithless Christian guy would have a very difficult time resisting. He'd probably start heating you up with his hands for starters. Suddenly there was a musical sound Daniel wasn't familiar with. What's that? He asked. Sally replied in a low voice, it's my cell phone. What? Asked Daniel, stunned. You can get phone access out here? Man, what system are you using? It's a text message from my husband. I mean boyfriend. Husband? Asked Daniel. Well, he acted like a possible husband, said Sally. What's his text say? Asked Daniel. Is he cussing you out? He wants me to call him, said Sally, looking scared. Well, call him. Tell him that you think he should become a Muslim, being that Muslim men can beat their wives if they just fear rebelling from them, like Quran 4, verse 34 says they can. Besides, it might be oh shoot. I'll read a little bit further here. Besides, it might be great to have a creep like that with his patootie in the air 5 times a day every day for the rest of his life on a prayer rug. By the way, when you're done, maybe you can let me call my Seiko so she can sleep tonight. Well, what will you say when she sees that it's not your cell phone you're calling her on? Asked Sally. I'll tell her the truth. I picked up a cute babe in distress, said Daniel. And that will make it so she can sleep? Asked Sally with surprise. Daniel thought, then said, she knows I've changed a lot in the past few months. Plus, she knows I love her enough to not cheat on her, even if the girl next to me is a knockout. Stop right here.